Snow fell over the broken door before the blood even had time to freeze. For 3 years the town heard her cry out and chose silence. Tonight, the storm carried something else to her porch, not a rescuer sent by God, but a man who had stopped believing in towns a long time ago. Cedar Hollow sat low in the Montana foothills, a mining town built on timber money and quiet arrangements. In the winter of 1881, it looked peaceful from a distance, smoke curling from chimneys, lanterns glowing gold in frosted windows. To Clara Whitfield, 23 years old, it was a frozen trap with her name on the deed. Her father had married her off to settle a debt. The groom, Silas Crane, owned the bank, the sawmill, and half the grazing land in the valley. He was handsome in church clothes and admired at supper tables. Nobody saw what happened once the door closed. It started small, a slap over a dropped teacup. Then it became routine. Silas was careful. He never marked her face before a Sunday service. He aimed for ribs, for thighs, for places hidden under wool and lace. Clara learned to read his moods the way sailors read weather. A tight jaw meant trouble at the bank. A slow step on the stairs meant she should send the housemaid home early. The town wasn't deaf. Neighbors heard the shouting, the things breaking, the silence after. But Silas held their mortgages and ran their credit. The sheriff, a tired man named Wyatt Doss, once drove her back to her husband's porch after she fled barefoot through the mud. A man's home is his own business, he told her, not meeting her eyes. By the third winter, Clara weighed less than a girl half her age. She had stopped hoping to be saved. She only hoped, some nights, that the next blow would be the last one. That night, a different kind of storm was already moving down from the high country. A trapper named Hale Render was leading 2 pack mules through drifts deep enough to swallow a man whole, trying to outrun the blizzard before it buried him. He hated towns, the noise, the false manners, the way men hid cruelty behind politeness and locked doors. He'd seen enough of that during the war. He was passing down the main street, head low against the wind, when a sound stopped him cold, a scream, choked off mid-breath, followed by the thud of something heavy hitting a wall. He looked up. Lights flickered behind drawn curtains on either side of the house. Someone peered out, then pulled the curtain shut again. Nobody was coming. So he did. The door didn't survive his shoulder. It came off its hinges entirely, and the storm poured into the parlor along with him. Silas spun around, more outraged than afraid, right up until Hale crossed the room in 2 strides and lifted him clean off the floor by the throat. It took less than 10 seconds to turn a tyrant into a wheezing, broken heap on his own expensive rug. Hale didn't look at him again. He knelt beside Clara, who flinched at his approach out of pure habit. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, voice gone soft. He wrapped his coat around her and carried her out into the blizzard, leaving the wreckage and the man who'd caused it behind. The journey up the mountain nearly killed them both. But in the weeks that followed, in a one-room cabin at the timberline, something in Clara began to heal that had nothing to do with broken bones. Hale taught her to set snares, split wood, and eventually to shoulder a rifle and hold it steady. "Out here," he told her, "nobody decides you're small but you." Silas survived the beating, and his pride couldn't survive the humiliation. He hired a bounty man to drag Clara back and bring Hale's head as proof of a job finished. When the spring thaw opened the passes, Silas climbed the mountain himself to reclaim what he believed was his. He found Clara alone at the cabin, and for a moment, old habits nearly won. She almost lowered her eyes, almost apologized for existing. Then she didn't. She stood her ground, picked up the rifle leaning by the door, and made the only choice that had ever truly been hers to make. Silas didn't walk back down that mountain. When Hale returned from the gunfire at the ridge, he found her standing steady in the doorway, not broken, not waiting to be rescued, already free. They never went back to Cedar Hollow. The town eventually stopped asking questions, the way towns often do when the truth is inconvenient. What lingered, in whispers passed down for years, was the story of a woman who survived a man's cruelty and a town's silence, and the stranger who refused to look away when everyone else did. If there's a lesson in Clara's story, it isn't about a mountain man arriving just in time, it's about everyone who didn't. Real change rarely comes from one dramatic rescue. It comes from people deciding not to look the other way. Cruelty survives in silence. It loses power the moment someone simply refuses to pretend they didn't see it. If this story stayed with you, think about it the next time you're the neighbor behind the curtain, because in real life, you might be the only one who hears the scream.